Dr. Lisa Damour, you are a psychologist, a New York Times columnist, and the author of two great books, Untangled and Under Pressure, both translated in Romanian by Trei Publishing House. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very glad to be here.
You know, while the parenting problems addressed by your books are very rich and diverse, I would like to discuss now mainly on the way in which parents can help their adolescent daughters to manage their romantic issues. And here is my first question. In your books, you emphasize the multiple pressures that adolescent girls have to face. For instance, when they are in high school, there is a clash between the parents' expectations for good academic performance and peer pressure to have a boyfriend or even to begin their sexual life. How can teen girls manage their time and energy in order to meet both kinds of pressure?
Well, one way to think about it is that when a young person, boy or girl, begins their romantic life, it should be because it's what they want for themselves. And my aim always in talking with young people, and especially young girls who are my main focus in my books, is to get them to reflect on what would be fun for them, what do they have an interest in, what would they like, and to actually pay more attention to what's going on in terms of their own wishes and wants, and less attention to what they think other people want for them.
Mm-hmm. And okay, what happens when there are pressure from both sides, the peers and parents, and they're asking for different, absolutely different kind of things?
Well, what I'd be interested in is whose wishes line up with the girl's wishes. So we now have three different wants on the table: what the peers want, what the girl wants, what the parent wants. So first, the girl has to know what she wants. Then maybe it lines up with peers or parents, or maybe it's something else altogether. But how that conflict will unfold will depend in part on where she sits in it. But what we don't want is a girl to be making a decision entirely on this is what my parents want or this is what my peers want. She needs to be at the center of that story.
Speaking on romantic issues, when teen boys interact with teen girls on romantic and even sexual matters, there is always a blurred line between slur and joke, harassment and romantic advances. Knowing that any sign of interest is welcomed by a girl seeking attention, what kind of advice can parents give their adolescent daughters in order to recognize and even refute abusive behavior or language?
Well, it's the boys who blur the line. The line is actually clear. Romantic interest, when it's earnest and kind, does not make a person feel small. Romantic interest that involves harassment or slurs or teasing is actually designed to make the girl feel small, and it's designed to reduce her power. It does not treat her like an equal partner in a romantic relationship. So what I would say as parents is that we need to say to girls, even if a guy says it's just a joke, jokes are really dangerous in this territory. When you call something just a joke, it allows you to say things that are mean, demeaning, power reducing. So if somebody feels they need to tell you that what they said was just a joke, you're getting a lot of information that that's probably not somebody you want to hang out with.
And could you give us some examples of some lines, some things that the girls should say in order to clear that boundary?
Well, girls can try. Girls might say, that's not funny. I don't find it funny. I think that's rude. I don't want you to talk to me that way. Those are all languages, language they can use. The problem is, it's not that often that a boy, especially if he's in front of his friends, says, you know, you're right, I should not have spoken to you that way and I apologize. So girls, we can encourage them to stand up for themselves, but we shouldn't promise them that it's going to go well. I also like to give girls the option of deciding not to deal with that person, deciding to maybe be minimally polite if she must, while resolving in herself that this is not somebody she's going to engage further. I do like the idea of encouraging girls to stand up for themselves, but I also really like the idea of encouraging girls to be tactical and strategic about who they put energy into conflict with. So not every conflict is worth it. And there may be times when a guy has been rude, where a girl just looks at him and then walks by and leaves it at that.
Okay, in our present day culture, you say in your books, girls are expected to please and to be quiescent, while boys are allowed to be more rebellious and demanding. Keeping that in mind, how can a girl say no when her boyfriend asks her to send him a nude image on herself, for instance?
Girls do this in lots of ways. Sometimes they're really funny, and girls have a great sense of humor. So I have seen girls send a naked picture of her foot and leave it, and then she's like, there's a nude. And so that's, I would say, also a very strategic and tactical way to make it clear that I'm not doing this, but I'm going to use humor to keep our relationship intact. You've crossed a line, I'm going to push you back over the line with a joke that is actually truly funny, and maybe we can continue to stay connected. Other times, girls should say, this is not okay for you to ask. And I think we don't talk with boys enough about the fact that they should not be asking for these things. We tell girls not to send nude photos. We forget to tell boys, don't ask for them either. So it's okay to say it's not okay for you to ask. And similarly, I have watched a lot of girls just start to block the boy who asks. They just won't engage him. And I think there's a lot to be said for giving girls permission to, doesn't deserve a response. Not every question deserves a response.
Unfortunately, most teen boys learn about sexual life by watching online pornography, and there are researches and data confirming this. How can a teen girl explain her boyfriend that her view of the romantic and sexual relationship has little in common with porn videos?
Well, this is where, first of all, we hope if they're a boyfriend and girlfriend that they are talking, and they are talking about all sorts of things. And then certainly if they're physically intimate, that they're talking about that. And what I advise for boys and girls, if they are physically intimate, is to start first with a question of, what do I want? So the girl should figure out, what does she want? May not be what her boyfriend is seeing on pornography. The second question is, what does the partner want? So if we're talking about a heterosexual relationship, this is the girl being curious about the boy being curious about the girl. So she should take an interest in what's interesting. You know, she should want to know what he wants to do. He should want to know what she wants to do. And so think about it almost like overlapping circles. This is what she wants. This is what he wants. This is where the activity should center. And so it's, what do I want? What do you want? What do we both want? And finding that space is what we both want. That's step 3. And then the last step is, are there any risks in that? You know, are we agreeing to, or are we deciding together to do something that someone could get pregnant, someone could get an STI? You know, do we need to take steps to keep ourselves safe?
But how easy is for a teenager to negotiate about this kind of things, because they're very sensible and even taboo sometimes?
Well, it's not easy, so we do need to give them practice and guidance. And what I say to the girls I take care of is, here's what you deserve. If you are with somebody and you say, I don't want to do that, there is one acceptable answer, which is, I am so glad you told me. I would not want to do anything that makes you uncomfortable. And I tell them, if you don't get that answer, it's over.
Mhm.
And I think that kind of clarity about what they deserve, how to ask for it respectfully, the respect with which they should be treated, I think is really, really important for us to offer them in very unequivocal terms the standards that we expect them, we feel they deserve to hold.
I see. The objectification of women and girls is not just an effect of pornography. In music videos, movies, ads, teen magazines and blogs, etc. The main thing that counts is the look, the appearance. And that's why there seems to be a never-ending contest for the beauty queen status in the classroom or on social media. How can parents talk to their daughters about objectification in an effective and non-judgmental way?
Mhm. I think we need to recognize that we live in a visual culture. Teenagers live in a visual culture. We need to recognize that adults participate in perpetuating a very narrow beauty standard. Adults are the ones making the ads. Adults are the ones putting out commercial content that is dictating for teenagers. This is the look. This is how you're supposed to look. Adults are the ones who are buying ads on those platforms. I mean, so adults are driving this train more than they want to acknowledge. But I think we can say, okay, yeah, that girl is very pretty, or yes, that TikTok dance is very cute, or that's pretty sexy what she's doing, and not diminish it or minimize it or say that it's bad or wrong. I mean, they are swimming in it. It's everywhere they go. But what we should do is say, oh, that's such a small part of who she is. You know, the way she looks, that's her container. There's a whole girl in there who's really interesting, probably. So yeah, you get to see her container, but you don't really know her. You don't know what she's about. And all she can show you on social media or any of the other media that kids consume is just the exterior of a person. It's a very literally superficial aspect of who they are. And so then I would say to kids, you can do that every once in a while if you want to, but you can't spend too much time on TikTok showing the most exterior part of you, because it'll take away from your cultivating who you really are. And what's really important about you, nobody can see that on TikTok.
When it comes to sexual education, your advice for parents is to help their daughters to find and trust their inner compass, as you said. What do you mean by that?
That's the part about what does the girl herself want? What does she want for herself? So not always paying attention to what the culture says she should want, or what maybe her partner says she should want, or her parents think she should want. But when it comes to romance and physical romance, we do this certainly as teenagers because it's fun, right? You know, it's supposed to be joyful. It's supposed to be a fun and nice thing, but it's only fun if you're doing it because you want to do it and doing what you want to be doing.
And the inner compass, it's about knowing yourself, actually, isn't it?
And what you'd enjoy, or sometimes teenagers don't always know until they try something and then they decide, I don't like that. So they're still needing to pay attention to what it is that sounds good to them or feels good to them.
Okay, my last question is focused on a present debate we have in Romania on the issue of sexual education in schools. Should it be taught in schools or not? I have to mention that today there aren't any sexual education classes here, not even in high schools. The main argument of the traditionalist opponents to sexual education classes is that this kind of education would tarnish the minds of students and encourage teens to start their sexual life earlier. What is your opinion on that kind of reasoning?
Well, it's not my opinion, it's the data. When we teach kids about sexuality as part of normal and healthy development, it does not cause them to become more sexually active. What we do know is if they are more sexually active, they are doing it in ways that are healthier and happier and kinder. So teenagers are already thinking about sex. We're not going to be the ones who introduce this idea to them. But if we are not teaching them about what healthy, equitable relationships look like, porn will be their sex ed teacher. And that's not really what any reasonable adult wants.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Damour, for your precious advice, and thank you for the wisdom you shared in your books, Untangled and Under Pressure, two precious guides for parents of teenage girls. Thank you very much.
Good, and thanks to Trei for publishing them in Romania.